It's not going to affect the flavor. You're just going to be you're more guaranteed to make sure that you have carbonation. And I was shocked as hell even in carbonation. Carbonation should take 1 to 2 weeks. I had these bottles sitting in my kitchen, excuse the mess, over here, kind of on the floor, right next to the fridge. 4 days I had full carbonation. I've been letting a couple of 22-ounce bottles carbonate for a little bit longer. I haven't quite cracked into those yet because I just want to see if aging the beer in the bottle makes that much of a difference in taste. But I was able, for $30, to get all my ingredients. All the time went by. I was able to bottle 41 12-ounce bottles and 2 of the 22-ounce bottles. If I put these side to side, you can see the comparison. At a distance, you can't, but, there's your 22-ounce bottle of Lagunitas. There's your 12-ounce bottle. So, really, you do the math. You pay $3.79 for one 22-ounce bottle, or $30 for, 41 12-ounce bottles and 2 22-ounce bottles. Just the price alone makes it worth it. Not to mention, you're talking about a hobby, something to do that's fun, being involved in the process of actually brewing. Just being able to say, you know what, I made this. I love cooking. If you ask my wife, Sonia, she will tell you, I'm the cook of the family. No offense to her, but my God, she could burn water. If I let her cook, I'd be living off of top ramen and mac and cheese for the rest of my life. Which is fine, but, I enjoy cooking. I like, brewing. So, overall, for my first batch, I'm much more impressed. It's been, granted, I didn't start off with a Lagunitas IPA to do a comparison to. I was just like, you know what, I like Lagunitas, I like IPA, I know that they're a good brewery, I'm going to try a clone. And when I walked into the brew shop, I picked that one out, I got all the ingredients I needed for it. So I didn't start off realizing, one, how light this beer was and the true taste qualities. I had already gone through about half of my homebrew. I happened to be at a store, and it's like, oh my God, there's Lagunitas IPA. I might as well pick one up and do a comparison. And the first thing that shocked me right off the bat is when I poured it, how light it was. I was just like, oh my God. And most IPAs that I drink are not this light. And that isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just, again, when you're expecting one thing and something else happens, that's kind of just where I was. I was expecting a much darker IPA, and traditionally IPAs are darker. Lighter ones would definitely have to be this Lagunitas. I would say Sierra Nevada probably is on the lighter side of IPAs. If you go over here, I'll kind of show you what I'm really used to drinking. This wouldn't necessarily be an IPA. This is an ale. It's again also by Lagunitas, but it's called Hop Stupid, and it's made more out of a hop extract than it is actually a dry hop. Nasty, which is out of Eugene, Oregon. This is their Total Domination IPA. Again, Stone is probably one of my other favorite breweries. That's my protein. But yeah, Stone has just a standard IPA, and then they also have a Ruination IPA, which is a lot stronger. And if you look on here, and again, you guys can't see the fine print on the bottle, but this is 7.7% alcohol by volume. Unfortunately, yeah, 100 plus IBUs, which stands for International Bitterness Units. So this one doesn't actually have the actual IBUs, it's 100 plus, so it's substantially bitter. Yeah, and again, just the standard Stone IPA, it doesn't list the IBUs, but this is 6.9 alcohol by volume, and oh yeah, the Nasty it's out of Eugene, Oregon. It doesn't even list. It's 6.7 alcohol percent by volume. Doesn't even list the IBUs. And then you go over here to the Lagunitas. It's 102 IBUs. Original gravity is 1.085, and then alcohol by volume is 8%. I would say that mine is a lot closer to this Lagunitas Hop Stupid. Again, the higher alcohol content, I would probably say at the minimum, my Homebrewed IPA probably stands at minimum at least an 80 on the IBU scale. I wouldn't be surprised if it's more. Again, the alcohol content, you use a hydrometer, you take a couple of readings. That's how you figure out not only the original gravity, but the IBUs. I didn't think the Lagunitas IPA was that weak when it came to the IBUs. At 45.5, that's not a whole lot strong. I mean, for someone that drinks, Corona or Corona and Tecate on that end, or the American beers with the Coors, the Miller, the Bud Light. Hell, even Rolling Rock. It's just there's no comparison. The IBUs are probably a little bit more. I would say Coors and Miller and Bud, they're not going to rank very high. I'd be surprised if they ranked 15 to 20 on the IBUs. That would be high for a beer like that. So, I mean, those are just some of the comparisons of the beers. Again, you have to kind of be a beer fanatic to understand some of the terminology of those things. But I mean, really, the biggest factor right off the bat, and you can't lie about that, is just the color. I mean, you pour the two beers, you see the color difference. You see, very light beer. You see a very dark beer. If I had smell-o-vision, you'd be able to notice the difference in the aroma coming off the beer, and then of course, the taste. For those of you that have tried this, it's a very strong beer. Preference-wise, and I'm not just saying this because it is a home brew and it's cheaper and I brewed and everything. My personal preference is absolutely I like this better. Overall, it's just a better product. I know exactly what went into it. I made it. It's a little more time consuming because you have to wait about 2 months for beer, but my God, it's worth it. And I don't know if maybe in comparison, because the problem was that I originally wanted to get kegs and not do the bottling. Well, we couldn't afford that. My wife talked me into, hey, just suck it up, do the bottling. What's a couple? You've already waited 2 months. What's a couple more weeks? So impressed as hell, and the beer may have turned out completely different had I only let it ferment in the carboy for a month versus 2 months. And there's a saying with beer, there's a saying with wine, just a general saying, things get better with time and age. In this case, I would have to say that is absolutely the case. I'm glad in a sense that I let it sit for as long as it did, and it more came out of just a fact of inconvenience. Of just I didn't have the money, I didn't want a bottle, I just wanted to go straight shot like the big boys and get a keg and CO2 tank, and it's just my wife was like, it's not practical. And actually, bottling wasn't that bad. It was fun. Bottling is one of the least. Let me rephrase that. Cleaning and sanitizing has to be the least favorite part of doing a homebrew. It's boring, it sucks, it's time consuming, you're not doing anything with the beer, you're just, okay, my God, I'm boiling bottles, or I'm soaking them in, a sanitizing solution, or I'm taking a bottle brush and I'm cleaning them, and I have to dry, 6 bottles at a time, and it's a pain in the ass. But once it's all done and you get it in the bottle and you're sitting there and you're waiting, and I didn't even care about the carbonation. I had a couple people over at the house for Sonia's birthday, and I was like, what, I'm just going to I'm going to put one bottle in the fridge, crack it open, see if I even have carbonation. When I cracked that bottle open, I swear to God, I thought that the cap was going to hit me in the face. There was that much, pressure behind it. So it's not a bad process. It's something that's fun. I was worried about temperature. I was keeping it in a closet in our spare bedroom. I was thinking, what if it gets too hot? all these different things. And again, it's as long as you kind of keep it in a room temperature environment, even if it's in a room that doesn't have, you know, air conditioning, it doesn't play that big of a factor into it. And it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot cheaper, and you're overall getting a better beer. You know, same recipe. Granted, I did an extract version. When you do homebrew, there's 3 different types you can do. You can do extract. You can do a they call it like I think a half mash. I could totally be butchering that second one. I forget the exact terminology for it. And then there's a all grain, which you're not using any type of extracts. When you use extracts, you're using a malt extract. You normally typically use a dry malt extract, and you use a liquid malt extract, which the closest thing I can compare it to is honey. When you dump it out of the container, it just looks like a big vat of honey. It takes forever. Whereas when you're doing the all grain, it's exactly what it is talking about. It's all grain. You're not using any extracts. You're you know, using your malt and your barley, and it's a much longer process, but you know, for the true home brewer, that's the stage and level that you want to get at. You want to get to a point where you're doing all grain, because you know, the beer is that much better. But heck, for my first time ever brewing beer, this came out substantially better than I ever expected. There's no comparison. Again, it's like drinking, you know, and I hate to throw out all these corporate beer names, but it's what people are most used to. It's like drinking a Sam Adams compared to a Pabst Blue Ribbon, Pabst, or a Keystone Light, or you know, Natty Ice. You know, you're drinking water versus something with full flavor. And again, I don't even really like Sam Adams. It's not that it's corporate. It's just, I think there's better beers out there. I like the microbrews. I like the things that have a little more flavor to them. So, yeah, that's basically my comparison. I'm sorry for boring you for the last 22 minutes, but you know, it's something I'm passionate about and I enjoy, and hope that you like this comparison.